Hello, beautiful people of the internet. How are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today in this video, I'm going to be doing the 20 questions book tag. I do not know who created this tag originally. I think it might have come from a blog or someone who deleted their channel, but I saw this on Cat Chat's channel. Cat Chats's channel. I saw this on her channel and I'll link her video down below. I was looking for a video to film today and I thought this seemed like fun. Obviously, as you can tell from the title, there are 20 questions, so let's just get right into it. Question 1. How many books is too many books in a series? I would say probably around 5. Obviously, you see a lot of duologies, a lot of trilogies, a lot of quartets. I think once you start getting to 5 or more books is when you start to push it a little bit. Obviously, it also depends on what's the book about, because epic fantasy series I definitely think can get away with having more books because the world is just so complex and there's so many different storylines that can be going on at once. But if it's another series like a mystery series, a contemporary series, I think once you get around 5+ books, that's just a bit too many and it starts to feel like the story has overstayed its welcome. I mean, for example, the Pretty Little Liars book series has, I don't even know how many books, like 20 something? It feels like an eternity. And that's just too many. The story, it just goes on for too long, extends past its natural conclusion. So I would say around 5 is too many. Question 2, how do you feel about cliffhangers? I want to say I do enjoy cliffhangers. There's a reason why they are so why they are so frequently used in books. However, it depends on what the book is, what the cliffhanger is, and just the book itself. Now, I feel bad because it seems like I'm just dunking on Sarah Shepard in this video. I swear I'm not doing it intentionally, but an example of a bad cliffhanger is the cliffhanger at the end of Follow Me, the sequel to The Amateurs. And the reason I didn't like this cliffhanger is because this sequel was so incredibly boring until the end when Sarah Shepard threw a cliffhanger at you, hoping it would make you pick up the next book to see what happened. And it just felt extremely cheap to me because the beginning of the book was so boring. It had the beginning and the middle of the book also been eventful and action-packed, and then there'd been a cliffhanger at the end. That would have been great, but it just seemed like Sarah Shepard was trying to kill time and throwing out a lifeline at the end to get you to read the next book. So, in general, I like cliffhangers, but they have to be done right. Question 3, hard copy or paperback? I personally prefer paperback books over hardcover. I especially love paperback books that have that really nice floppy feeling. I just prefer those to hardcovers, though I will buy hardcovers if there's a book that I'm really anxious to read and hardcovers are all that are available, but generally I prefer paperbacks, and the floppier the better. I mean, just like, look at this. Is this not satisfying? The feeling of this. I love the floppy paperback. Next question is your favorite book. Pride and Prejudice. If you ever watched any of my videos before, you know that this is my favorite book. Every time I do a book tag, I try to fit this book in somewhere because I just love it so much. I don't even know what else there is to say. This book is my life. This book is my religion. I've read it at least 3 times. Possibly 4. I'll probably read it at least once every year for the rest of my life. That's all there is to say. Next question is your least favorite book. This is hard because there have been books that I really hated, and now I'm wondering what book is the one that I hated more than any other. I think it has to be one of the books I was forced to read for school. I really hated Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. That book was just terrible, so boring, and took a really colonialist stance. I feel bad because my late grandfather was apparently a big Joseph Conrad fan, but it's a no from me. Also, a book that I had to read senior year of high school was Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of this book. I never heard of it until I was forced to read it, and it was painful to get through. This is one of the few books I was assigned for school that I actually couldn't really finish. I had to read summaries online for some of the later chapters of this book because I hated it so much and I thought it was so incredibly boring. Just not the kind of thing that I would ever read if I had the choice. Next question, love triangles, yes or no? For me, I lean more towards no. Granted, I'm not going to not read a book just because it has a love triangle, but the thing about love triangles is I feel like every book where there's a love triangle, there's always one romantic interest in the love triangle who I like so much more than the other. So I never personally feel conflicted, and I think the love triangles can be really long and drawn out for the sake of drama, and also it's just not something that happens all that often in real life, at least not in my experience or the experience of anybody else I know, but maybe that's just me. So I'm not a fan of the love triangle, but it's also not a deal breaker for me in books. I definitely think there are some people who hate it more than I do. Next question, the most recent book you just couldn't finish. I mentioned this in my intimidating TBR book tag, but the last book I DNF'd was Captive Queen by Alison Weir. This is a historical fiction book about Eleanor of Aquitaine, who is a historical figure that I find really interesting and I want to learn more about, but I could not get through this book and I decided to give up on it and return it to the library because the relationship between Eleanor and Henry in the book was so incredibly abusive and toxic, and granted, I don't think the author wanted you to think that it was a healthy romance, but it was just not something I really wanted to put my energy into. The sex scenes were so cringy and a little too frequent for my taste, so I just decided, you know, this wasn't going to be the book for me, and why force myself to finish it when I know I'm probably not going to like it? Question 8 is a book you are currently reading. I am currently reading Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I bought this edition so many years ago when I was in middle school, and I couldn't get through the book because I think I was just too young for it. I didn't understand the framing device, so I put it down, and all these years later, I am finally reading it. Like I've mentioned in videos before, I am doing a senior research project for my senior seminar at college on the Bronte sisters, so I had to read this urgently, and you are going to see this in one of my vlogs coming soon, so I'm not going to say that much about my thoughts right now. You'll have to watch that video and then my monthly wrap-up for more details. Question 9, the last book you recommended to someone. I told my mom to read The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware, not because I absolutely loved that book, but because I wasn't in love with the ending and I wanted somebody else I know to read the book so that I could talk to somebody about it. I think that was probably the last book I recommended to her. I also got her to read Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney and The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, both of which I really enjoyed, and she enjoyed both of those as well. Also let her borrow my copy of Death on the Nile because we want to go see the Death on the Nile movie, which has now been postponed indefinitely, so no rush to read the book, Mom. You got plenty of time. Actually, Turn of the Key was not the last book I recommended to somebody because I told my dad to read The Guest List by Lucy Foley, and he currently has my copy of that. He was the one who bought the book for me after seeing a positive review about it in the paper, and so I told him that he should read it and then we can talk about our thoughts together. So that was actually the last book I recommended to somebody. But my mom hasn't read Turn of the Key yet, and my dad hasn't finished reading The Guest List, so I'll have to wait to see their thoughts. Next question is oldest book you've read in terms of publication date. I'm assuming this would probably be the Odyssey, which I had to read sophomore year of high school because that was published around the 8th century BC, and I believe scholars think that it was finally written down after being told orally for a really long time. So I really think there's no other book I've read that even comes close to being as old as that. Next question is the newest book you've read in terms of publication date, and that would be Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. I had to read this for my class on writing a literary review. I was assigned to write a review of this book because it came out very recently. Fortunately, I did not enjoy this. I gave it 2 stars. This is a book that is extremely vague with very little plot and not a very concrete ending. That's a conscious choice the author made. However, for me personally, that really bothers me, and though the book had good elements, I was very bored by it. I will link the vlog where I read this book down below. Also, another problem is this book was marketed as a thriller, and I don't really think it is a thriller. It does try to build up a lot of suspense, and I've seen reviews where people said they thought it was very thrilling and suspenseful. However, I personally would categorize this as a literary fiction, and generally speaking, I don't like literary fiction. I find them pretentious, and that was definitely true for this book as well. So this wasn't for me, but I have seen people really like it. Next question is your favorite author. No surprise. Jane Austen. I have read all of her completed novels. I have not read her novella Lady Susan or any of her unfinished works, but I did read all of her main novels and I really enjoyed all of them to varying degrees. So if I had to pick a favorite author, it would definitely be Jane Austen. I do also really enjoy Agatha Christie's books. I do sometimes find her a bit problematic due to some of her stereotypes and generalizations. However, her books are really interesting and all of them are really quick to get through. So if I just want to read a book in the course of one weekend, she is an author who I gravitate towards. Question 13 is buying books or borrowing books? I love buying books, but I have been trying to buy fewer books until I can get through all the ones I already own that I haven't read, because, you know, buying books can really add up after a while. It can cost you a lot of money. So I have been going to the library more and I do enjoy that immensely. I love the library. Support your local library. However, I don't like to borrow books from other people. So I love buying books and borrowing books from the library. Next question, a book you dislike that everyone else seems to love. The most recent example, I think, would be Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. I read this in the same reading vlog where I read Leave the World Behind, so I will link that down below for you guys if you want more detailed thoughts. Personally, I loved the beginning of this book and I thought the ending was so disappointing. A lot of other people don't feel that way, but for me, this book was one of, if not the biggest disappointment of this year in terms of books, for sure. Question 15, bookmarks or dog ears? Definitely bookmarks. I have quite a few and I probably should buy some more because the bookmark that I'm using in Wuthering Heights right now is so old that it's from Borders. Question 16, a book you can always reread. I'm not even gonna say it. Let's just move on to the next question. Question 17. Can you read while hearing music? For me personally, no, because when I listen to music, I really like to pay attention to the lyrics and listen to all the words of what the person is singing. So if I were listening to music and reading a book at the same time, I wouldn't be able to focus on both at once because I would either need to give all my attention to reading the words in the book or all my attention to listening to the words that the person is singing. Question 18 is one POV or multiple POVs? And I really do like multiple POVs, but again, it kind of depends on the book and what type of book it is. For example, in an epic fantasy like A Song of Ice and Fire, I love the multiple point of views. There are so many amazing point of view characters in this series, and I think it's a great technique to use in an epic fantasy because the world is so big and there's so much history and lore and so many different storylines going on that the book would be entirely different if you were just following one character, and it wouldn't be as epic in its scope. However, in The Female of the Species by Minty McGinnis, I didn't really like the multiple point of views because I thought Alex's point of view was so much better than the other two that I wished the entire book had just been from her perspective because she was by far the most interesting out of the three. So, in general, I like multiple point of views, but it has to be right for that story, and all the point of views have to be somewhat interesting and bring something new to the story. Question 19, do you read a book in one sitting or over the course of multiple days? Usually multiple days. I don't remember the last time I ever read a book in one sitting. I personally just like to savor my books, don't feel rushed, just take my time with it, process everything that's going on. Though sometimes if I am reading a really fast-paced thriller or a intriguing mystery, I will read it much quicker. Like for example, an Agatha Christie book, I will probably read in about 2 sittings, but still that might be over the course of 2 days. Finally, question 20, who do you tag? Honestly, I don't know who to tag. If you're still watching this after how long I've been talking and you have a booktube channel, I am tagging you to do this, you know, if you want. And if any of you out there decide that you're going to film this tag, then please let me know in the comments because I would love to watch your video and see your answers. So that is it for the 20 questions book tag. Thank you so much if you're still here watching this video. It feels like it was a long one and I rambled a bit, but thank you so much for watching this video. Please give it a big thumbs up if you enjoyed and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. I post new videos every single Wednesday. My social media links are down below if you want to follow me on Tumblr, Instagram, or be my friend on Goodreads. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an empowering rest of your day. Bye, and I'll see you in the next video.